This video was produced for the benefit of Intro to Chicano, Chicana, and Latino, Latina Studies, and was created by Andrea Carvajal, Anthony Sy, Neely Russell, Sierra Barston, and Christian Gatlin. As we have learned in this class, the Chicanx and Latinx population has been rapidly growing across the U.S. However, despite the increase in population, there is still a lack of representation in popular culture. The representation that exists is inaccurate, reflecting Hollywood stereotypes rather than the actual culture. This video will investigate Chicanx and Latinx stereotypes that exist in Hollywood culture and examine the resistance against these stereotypes. According to early Hollywood, those cast to play Chicanx and Latinx roles all had darker skin and hair and spoke with heavy accents. Rita Moreno describes in an interview her casting experience in West Side Story.
Did you have to do anything to look more, act more, or sound more Puerto Rican?
They made me use an accent, which I wasn't thrilled about because a lot of us obviously don't have them. The thing that really bothered me the most is that they put the same very muddy, dark-colored makeup on every shark girl and boy, and that really made me very upset. And I tried to get that changed, and I said, look at us, we're all, many, many different colors. Some of us are very white, some of us are olive skinned, some of us actually have black blood, some of us are Taino Indian, which is the original Puerto Rican, and nobody paid attention, and that was that. I had no choice in the matter, but I was not happy. And when I saw the film recently and saw George Chakiris, this beautiful guy, Greek guy who looked like he had fallen into a bucket of mud, I started to giggle.
The directors and producers of the film took strides to exaggerate the ethnic features of the actors until they were almost caricatures or parodies of the culture. As heard in the interview, Moreno speaks with a calm, lower, natural voice. However, if you look at a clip from Moreno in her role in the film, the voice she uses for her part sounds drastically different than her natural voice.
Lots of new housing with more space.
Lots of doors slamming in our face.
I'll get a terrace apartment.
Better get rid of your accent.
This exaggeration can be seen in a variety of the stereotypes that exist today. Nadra Kareem Little, a journalist who reported on common Latinx stereotypes in television and film, describes how, quote, Hollywood has a long history of portraying Hispanics and Spaniards as Latin lovers, and it plays off the idea that Hispanic men are incredibly suave, sexy, and skilled in the sheets. The Latin lover is extremely romantic with strong sexual desires, often having many women in his sights or lusting after him. He is a smooth talker, luring the innocent heroine into his grasp, only to leave after using her. Likewise, Hispanic women are commonly typecast as sex pots. They are curvy, sexy, and beautiful and capture all the men's attention. Some Hispanic actresses who have portrayed these women today are Sofia Vergara, Jennifer Lopez, and Eva Longoria. Niddle says, quote, Sofia Vergara in particular continues to play the role of Gloria Delgado Pritchett on Modern Family, which many prominent Latinas argue not only fuels the stereotype that Hispanic women are sexy, but also loud, crazy, and spicy. If a Latina or Latino does not fit into the typecast of a Latin lover or sex pot, then they may be typecast as some form of domestic help. Niddle describes how black housekeepers played key roles in television sitcoms such as 1950's Beulah and films such as 1939's Gone with the Wind. By the 1980s, however, Latinos increasingly replaced blacks as Hollywood's domestics. Hispanic actors and actresses often found themselves playing maids, waiters, and waitresses, gardeners, and nannies. In fact, the late actress Lupe Ontiveros estimated that she played a maid as many as 150 times on screen. One of the most common stereotypes, and the most damaging, is the gangster criminal stereotype. Hollywood portrays Latinos as macho, or extremely masculine, and thus casts the men as violent and dangerous. The frequent portrayal of Latinos as criminals enforces the idea in viewers' minds that Latinos are delinquents. This generates negative attitudes towards Latinos and makes it harder for them to find jobs and separate themselves from the stigma without letting go of their culture. As Mary Beltran explains in her article Latino, Americans in Film and Television, quote, Latino representation in U.S. film and television is increasingly important to scholarship on America media, as the Latino population has grown exponentially in the last century and is expected to continue to increase." End quote. America Ferrera has become one of the many Latina voices to speak on the importance of accurate representation of Latino culture. In an interview for her new show, Superstore, Ferrera discusses how television is not relatable because there are only certain figures portrayed rather than the typical working person. She emphasizes that it is important to include different types of people from different backgrounds to give consumers something to relate to and feel good about. In her article, Niddle describes how, quote, television programs such as The George Lopez Show, Desperate Housewives, and Ugly Betty were unique in that they portrayed Latinos as Americans rather than recent immigrants to the United States, end quote. These shows portrayed Latinos as average Americans rather than outsiders or newcomers to American culture. Their Latino identity was not their defining characteristic, rather it was simply one of the many things that made them who they were. They were well-developed characters who had struggles that people of all ethnicities could relate to. Hispanic actors are speaking out about the lack of diversity in the roles they are given. They are speaking out against the stereotypes and demanding more well-rounded characters. Gina Rodriguez speaks openly about how she only chooses roles which she believes will, quote, push forward the idea of her culture, of women, of beauty. My idea of liberating young girls of feeling that they have to look at a specific beauty type, end quote. She said in an interview with a Hollywood Reporter, quote, I am not defined by the fact that my parents speak Spanish or that my skin color is brown. I am defined by my character, and my character is a strong woman that's independent, that's following her dreams, that wants love, that wants a family, that wants to succeed just like anyone else in this world. She advocates for better representation so that there will be more role models for young people to look up to. She strives to inspire change in the way Latinos are viewed in society, moving away from the degrading stereotypes and towards real people. On the film scene, Diego Luna recently became the first Mexican to be in the Star Wars franchise. He played Captain Cassian Andor in the highly anticipated film Star Wars Rogue One and kept his Mexican accent for the role. The representation of a Mexican with an accent impacted people of all ages. In an article on NBCNews.com, Brian Latimer talks about a Tumblr post that went viral. In the post, a fan tells the story of how she took her Mexican father to see the movie, and his excitement over a Mexican speaking with a heavy accent like him in a leading role. In conclusion, there is still a lot of work to be done in order to dispel the stereotypes about Chicanx and Latinx culture. Because while some people may live in that stereotype, there is much more to the Latino Chicano culture. By creating well-developed roles that accurately reflect the daily life of a member of the Chicanx and Latinx community, members of the community will have more accurate role models to learn from and look up to.